So my major is computer science, and when we were reading through the textbook and came across supercomputers, I became really intrigued with them because they directly correlated with my major. So in this video, I really wanted to focus in on supercomputers and how they help weather forecast. So supercomputers are substantially different from your everyday computer. They are a lot more powerful, and they are a lot bigger too. For example, some of them can even be the size of a school bus. They also process information a different way. Your everyday computer uses something called serial processing, but a supercomputer uses parallel processing, which basically means they can do a bunch of different things at once. And you may even be familiar with a supercomputer. One of the most famous supercomputers is IMB's Watson, which actually appeared on an episode of Jeopardy! Supercomputers can be applied to so many different fields. In medicine, they are using them to make advancements in cancer patients' treatment, and in security, it's being used for facial recognition software, and it can also be used in weather forecasting, which is what we're really going to be focusing and discussing in this video. So, supercomputers predict the weather with numerical forecasting, which basically means that they use mathematical calculations to predict the weather. But you can't use a calculator to do these kinds of math. You need a really, really complex and powerful computer in order to do these operations. And these supercomputers are capable of doing 2 billion operations per second. They take in air pressure, wind direction, Earth's rotation, solar radiation, and all of these different factors in order to predict the weather, which makes it a lot more accurate because you have all of these different observations going into one forecast. So let's go through the steps of what a supercomputer would do to predict the weather. So it would take observations from weather balloons, satellites, buoys, radars, and even sensors on commercial aircrafts and ships. And then it turns them into numbers that are really easy to work with, and those numbers can then be plugged into algorithms. So they take these observations and then they add them into a model grid, and then they're able to run simulations using more algorithms to see how the weather will play out and just to get a sense of the forecast. So, supercomputers use climate projections in order to predict weather, and these climate projections need a lot of data to be withheld. They need 100 terabytes or 100,000 gigabytes of data. So, a high-resolution regional model is a lot better than a low-resolution regional model because you can get a lot more of an accurate representation of the terrain rather than just altitudes on a grid. So everything is a lot more detailed and accurate, and it can also be more precise, which leads to a lot more of an accurate forecast. So one of the main things that supercomputers are used for is to predict weather phenomena like hurricanes and tornadoes, but they can also be used to reveal the effects of climate change in the future. So I want to share with you a little model from NASA, and this shows the concentration of CO2 in the Earth's atmosphere. So this is kind of what a supercomputer could show us, and of course we know that CO2 is directly linked to global warming, which can show climate change. So supercomputers are not 100% accurate, and they aren't ever going to be 100% accurate because weather prediction just can't be perfect. There are so many factors that go into it, and there's no way to be right 100% of the time. So scientists really need to find that fine line of knowing when to warn their community. For example, if they are warning their community at every little chance of something bad happening, and they're constantly being proven false, when there's a real emergency and there's a high chance of something occurring, the community is not going to actually pay attention to that. So, if used correctly, It really does have the potential to save lives, and supercomputers can honestly be really life-changing. So it's just knowing when to use it and how to use it. And then here is my bibliography, which shows all the sources that I used, and if you're interested, I will also leave them all linked down below, all the articles, as well as the CO2 video from NASA. And that's all. Have a wonderful day.